listening to Nocturnal Frequency Radio, hosted by Steve Jenny and his satanic assistant, Alex Houdini, both of whom can't go into churches without vomiting.
I never grow tired of listening to his voice. Welcome, guys. Welcome.
Hi.
What's going on?
And we did manage to get that Justin guy. He is absolutely a busy guy.
He's elusive.
Just in time.
Yeah, just in time.
I think there might be a problem with your mic there, Justin.
Come on, there's never a problem with Justin's mic.
No, can't hear you.
You gotta be kidding me.
There you go.
Is that better?
That's
I
a
can
little
hear
better.
you.
Yeah, that's a little better.
Hey, it wouldn't be a
little
show, Justin.
Could be a
if
bit
something didn't go
louder.
wrong.
Could be a bit louder, but yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that feedback, actually.
well, Alex, we only got a couple more shows left, so we figured we'd do a an all-out dark discussions tonight, and of course, our good friend Dr. Demon Gord is with us this evening.
Good evening, all.
Mr. Secret Vault himself, Matt Williams. Welcome, Matt. Always great to have you, buddy.
Always great to be had.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Justin, it's a rarity these days. You're super busy guy, and I know you're lurking in the shadows still.
I do lurk in the shadows. I do work with school, and I have done shadow work.
And you know what I wanted to start off with, what I wanted to talk a lot about, the label or the atmosphere or the feeling that most people get when they go into an old abandoned location. It may be for a paranormal investigation or just urbex or whatever.
Yeah.
There's always that label, that stigma, that look at something major is going to happen or something dreadful. And Matt, if you can, I would love it if you could show some of that footage from that one place, or actually that one place that you were in.
Sprung it on me now. Go on. Yeah.
No, I mean, if you is accessible to you,
Which one?
The one with the animals.
Oh yeah, okay.
That was pretty freaky, man. Like I mean, walking in there and seeing that, it just absolutely. When you showed that to me before you had uploaded it to your channel, I'm like, wow, just stumbling into a place like that.
Mm.
But it gives you a look. Not only you're not only going into an abandoned location, but you're going into one that's it's like, okay, what happened? Why is this still in the state it's in now? Or what how did it just get to that point and bang, it just ended?
Yeah. I'm gonna get it for you.
Okay. So well, let me Gord, let me ask you, you guys had been in many abandoned places before SOPs, and of course with us. But I mean, what was it about? Like, say for instance, that old farmhouse that you guys had been visiting several times. I mean, what was it about it that kept you guys going back?
Well, I think it's the way it was when you walked into the house, because it was such an old farmhouse. There was a feeling of comfort, but then every now and then something really bizarre would happen.
Bizarre.
Not something you would picture to happen in a family-friendly farmhouse.
Yeah.
Like, we had voices on tape. We had a door literally unlocking itself, opening, and then closing again and relocking itself. Just things like that would happen, and it would just go, okay, wait a minute, we need to go back for more and more.
Hey, Gord, was that the farmhouse that Steve and I came to one time?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the same time that we did the Ouija board session there too.
Yeah. Interesting place. Like just the atmosphere alone. But that's what I mean. The atmosphere. And Matt, you've been in tons of places like that. I mean, what is it about the atmosphere that just you know uh, is it always a sense of dread, or what kind of atmosphere is like dominating when you go into a lot of these places?
One of the craziest places I've been into is called the Rummer Tavern. It's supposed to be the most haunted pub in Bristol, but they cut it in two. So the existing Rummer Tavern is still open, but the back half, which is 3 or 4 floors and an underground where they used to actually run parties and sort of things like that. It's now been shut down. It's going to be renovated. Now that's interesting because I think it's going to be turned into a hotel, and it's supposed to be one of the most haunted pubs in Bristol, and they're going to turn it into a hotel.
Wow.
So what's going to happen there? It might be good to check in for a night, and just see what's actually happening. That place, we've had some strange experiences in there. I think a lot of people have been using it homeless, had been living in there and taking heroin, and there were needles all over the place and whatnot. All artwork all over the walls, including Cthulhu. There was some very Cthulhu artwork on the walls. So I thought, hey, it'd just be fun to kind of sit down and sort of say, you know, uh, you know, Cthulhu mythos stuff, and I was calling in like Cthulhu Fatagan Cthulhu, come now, enter the building, and things were happening, like doors were slamming, the temperature just dropped, plummeted. It was almost like you get this bubble effect where it feels like all the audio in the room, you can hear everything outside, and then all of a sudden it just seems like it's being compressed. It's like you can only hear yourself, and you're like in a bubble, and there was that sort of stuff happening, and there was just a feeling that we weren't on our own. Definite feeling there was something else there with us, and that was all through just calling, a fictionalized, character like Cthulhu, just for fun, just to see, because people had actually drawn like octopus-headed creatures on the walls and things. I'm thinking, do the people even know what they're doing? And why would they
Yeah.
be doing that? And so that got me kind of going. That was an interesting place. Yeah, I've been back there a couple of times. Always had a strange feeling like, somebody's there, or, and I don't get that in most places. I'm just kind of like, hey, I'm somewhere. I don't care where I'm at. But this place, you always felt like there was something there, or you weren't on your own, or you're always looking over your shoulder. And I don't know why. I just don't know quite why. It's just an intangible thing that you feel. And if you've never felt it, you won't know what we're talking about. But if you have felt it, you know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
play a video in a sec, Matt.
Mhm.
What do you think, Justin? I mean, is it maybe because you're going into a place that law forbids, or why is
I
that
think there's
feeling there?
a certain psychological factor to those things, that you kind of, put on yourself in a sense when you're entering a dark building, which, we've all, we know how it is. But after a while, for me, it's just like second nature. I've been in so many different places, and, some of the stories that I've told about that would make you really scared of going into things just because of the people who are in those areas. But I think there's an aspect to that, most definitely. If there was any sort of trauma or traumatic event in those places, they could leave some lasting impressions that we could be picking up on, just, kind of psychically in a sense, that could be playing into too. But I think part of it is just that the unknown, and that's what draws us into those things for sure. Especially for me, I get more excited. It's like my coat when I go in these
What
places.
it is, I mean, somebody asked me, why do you like? How can you do it? I mean, I love going into these places. I absolutely love it.
I think it's built for it. I think some people are just built for these types of things, and that's
Yeah,
like Waverly.
yeah.
Many places actually. I've been to Bachelor's Grove, which is a pretty famous place out here in Chicagoland, and Waverly in Kentucky. I felt like I could just fall asleep, like and not worry about anything. And and there's times like, yeah, it's very dreadful. You do get a dreadful feeling depending on certain histories that correlate with these places, but the majority of the time, yeah, now I can just chill. Maybe if I could, without having to ruin anything or part of the experiment, just have a beer and chill with some ghosts if that was the case. I'm not too scared of things anymore.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll play this video, Matt. And this is something that well, Matt, pretty much. Well, you didn't. What's the story behind this? Do you know much about this place? Nothing.
No, I don't. I don't. And it's interesting because I actually had a phone call from the police over this video,
Oh,
and they said that they were concerned about what was in the video. They said it's a great video. They said we
yeah,
enjoyed watching the video, but we're a bit concerned
yeah,
about what was in the house, and also the fact that there were shotgun shells there,
yeah.
and that they shouldn't have been there.
Mhm.
So it just kind of like the whole lawlessness and weirdness of the fact that these people were just, keeping animal carcasses strewn all over the place, and what the hell was going on,
Could it be your
so
version of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Was this the Cthulhu talk about, man?
sorry.
The Cthulhu place that you're talking about?
No, this is a different place in Wales that we went to. I think I've got the video of this,
Yeah.
and these people kept their dead animals, their dead dogs in coffins in the house as
Yeah.
well, which was weird. But they had dead bodies of sheep, loads of animal bones, animals kept in little plastic containers, which had turned to slush, and
Oh,
all sorts of stuff,
yeah.
Mm.
All right, let's play.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Dead bodies of sheep. Look, folks. Look, that's what the smell is. Look. Sheep. It smells of death.
Do not. If you open that, there's a dead fox in it.
It smells of death in here, folks.
It's awful, man.
Look at this, just the
Ugh.
skeletons and the
Yeah.
Looking like this,
spinal
folks, 'cause
cords.
It's not good.
Here. You've got your trays still here.
Oh,
These were two together.
bodies of sheep. Look, why has he kept them indoors?
I don't know what he's done to them.
Oh.
That dead fox, folks.
It's actually a dead lamb.
Ready?
It's a dead lamb.
Yeah,
Ready?
Mm.
Why? Why would you do that?
it's not a fox. It's a sheep.
Why would you
Oh.
put it in there? Why?
What a weirdo.
Why would you do that to animals?
What a bloody weirdo.
A horrible prank you just did.
I can't handle the smell.
I
Yeah.
know it's bad, isn't it?
And I think a bit further on in the video we've got the bodies of these there's the shotgun shells.
Shotgun shells.
Which is illegal. You're not allowed to have those things just left behind.
The King Charles.
And let's have a look at oh, here we are. Look,
Right, let's
coffins.
take this out.
No way.
That one is.
Who has a coffin for a dog? You cremate them. You don't do coffins.
Or at least you bury the coffin, or
This house is fucking
Dead
weird.
since
there was another one on the other
19.
side of the room.
Weird ass shit going on there,
Go and have a look at that one then. Sorry, it's quite
folks.
sensitive.
Bloody hell! Nah,
wish I
you can keep that. 1983 to 1998.
Oh wow.
Jesus.
So what's that? 7 and 8.
That's quite
15 years old.
Yeah, so it was the whole place was just like that. I didn't really want to hang around too much because I just thought this is just Slimeville. It's horrible. The others did a paranormal there. They had some stuff. In fact, the voice that came through on the radio apparently said, "Where's Matthew gone?" Because I left the house. I left. I just like I don't need to see this. This is like
This gives a whole new meaning to dark discussions.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, there was no indication of where the people had gone or anything like
No.
that. It was just left like that.
We didn't have
Wow.
much backstory on the place.
Wow.
We were just told it was quite gross. Went there and it ticked all the boxes. So yeah.
Wow. That's that's insane. That's
That's
just
a good
insane.
find.
I don't think I've come across anything like that ever. Never. Definitely not.
How do people live like that? I mean, I have had members of my family who've kind of lived in very oldie worldy conditions, and they have a pantry, they keep food in the pantry and things like that, and it's and they cook with lard, like solid blocks of lard and things that we just don't seem to do much anymore. But I mean, that takes it to the next level. That's not just rooms full of, memorabilia.
Yeah,
That's
well, yeah.
rooms full of filth. You know.
I guess
Come on.
you carcasses memorabilia if you had some significant to them of some sort.
So
Yeah.
what would be your first response, Justin, if you walked into a place like that?
One, I probably would be giddy because I'm seeing something gory and disgusting, and then eventually I probably be like, yeah, I might throw up. I mean, I vomit sometimes at the smell of my kids' craps. I mean, I'm sure that would make me vomit just walking in some of that. Oh my god!
Are you, by the way, who's the guy who says on the titles that he can't go into churches without vomiting?
No,
No,
not at all.
no.
That's
No.
me. That's me and Steve.
Yeah.
Right. Who did the voice for that, by the
That's
way?
David Front,
Yes,
Highgate Vampire.
Oh, he did the voice for that,
He
did he?
did that, yeah.
Ah,
He was a really good
okay.
friend of the shows before he passed away. He was
Mhm.
a very, very good friend of the shows.
I'm betting that there was some kind of ritual shit going on in
It
that house.
seems like it, especially the
Yeah.
collection of bones and stuff.
Yeah.
Otherwise
I mean,
it's like hoarding, maybe.
Yes.
Maybe.
Somebody did
that's-
mention that perhaps he was into taxidermy, but it's like, there's taxidermy where you keep things in an outdoor shed so the smell doesn't permeate the house.
But it's
But
inside.
this was a room of the house, where all these bodies were, and I was just like, no, this must have smelled worse than a bloody fish market on a Saturday morning, So yeah.
On a hot Saturday morning.
I am like tasting.
Hot Saturday,
So the cops might not only be concerned about the state of the place, but perhaps maybe whoever lived there might be in there somewhere. That's fucking insane. That's insane.
I mean, I suppose they might be asking the question, like, why are you keeping animal bodies like that? What's your purpose for doing it? And if they haven't got a good answer for why, then it's going to be suspicious. He said to me, he was very much, it was a two-part sort of statement. He's like, we're very interested in finding out where that house is and what was going on there. And I said, you're probably interested in the shotgun shells as well. And he went, yeah, we need to go and collect those, but that wasn't the main focus. He wasn't like coming at me with, we need to get there because of shotgun shells, and guns that might be in this cabinet or something, that was probably on their mind. But he sounded, from the way he approached it, like he was concerned, it's like something not quite right, like a little bit odd.
Well,
So-
somebody in chat earlier said something about possible anthrax risk in that house.
You'd have to have anthrax in that area to kind of be a risk, because it doesn't come just from having dead bodies. But I mean, it's certainly incredibly unhygienic for a start.
Yeah.
And maybe you have to have a license to do certain types of things like that, and be trained, and people just doing it in a random manner like that, might be, they might think, well, were any animals kind of mistreated, or how did you get hold of these animals? What was the circumstances? I can kind of think, maybe they're kind of like, just hillbillies that just haven't got a clue and need to be reeled in a bit,
So what about you, Gord? Is that demonic enough for you? That place?
I don't know. It's kind of like a train wreck where I'd want to see what else is there, but
yeah.
Some of that stuff, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to places that might have, like, a dead animal. I mean, that's par for the course. They get caught, they can't get out, and they just die.
Yeah.
But absolutely nothing like that. That's just wow.
Especially the whole keeping bodies in the buckets. I mean, that's just that's a little something. I mean, the purpose.
The concern is they started with animals. Did they move on to humans?
Oh, sure, yeah. True. Yeah. It kind of gave me Night of the Living Dead Part 2 with the whole canister, the zombie canister.
Yeah. So Matt, did you possibly stumble upon a serial killer's place? That's crazy.
No idea.
Oh, wow.
That you do find a lot of these places where people just kind of let the house go to rack and ruin, and they don't clean, and they pile things on top of each other, and most intents and purposes, you'd say people are living in just abject filth, and people are allowed to do that if they own their house and nobody's complained. Things go on behind the scenes that a lot of people just wouldn't believe. And I think it's interesting to kind of lift the lid on just how crazy some people are that are living out there. And you drive past these old farmhouses and you say, well, oh, that looks a bit run down. And you think, like, there's somebody living in there in just like absolute filth. The holes in the roof, water coming in, all things that could be fixed really easily, but they don't do it. They just kind of like just let the whole place disintegrate around them, and they just don't think. It's weird to me. I would say you need to bring in like a doctor to
Yeah.
kind of assess the mental health of these people and find out whether they're capable of keeping themselves in a safe situation. Because with people, somebody who's living in a state like that, I mean, it's dirty.
Mhm.
It can cause infections, cold, damp, spores, of black mold, and all these sorts of things that a lot of people just kind of don't think about, and from a social point of view, from the we're meant to look after people like this. When you see that, you kind of have to say, well, hang on.
Yeah.
These people we need to either give them a wake up call and say, you can't live like that, or maybe move them out because it's unsafe for them to live there, literally for their health. They can't
Yeah.
live in that condition,
Yeah,
So do
exactly.
you know if someone still lives in that location?
There was nobody living there, but we don't know where they went.
Right.
But, there were photos, family photos and things like that. Looked a bit strange. Like the woman, she had a square hairstyle, like a television set, and I'm like, that's a bit special, and yeah.
Kind of reminds me of House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. It's just like
Yeah.
you sit there and you think about the state of their mentality of the people that live. But then again, you just don't know what's going on. You just don't know what that person was doing, like you said, Matt, taxidermy or whatever. You just don't know. And that's the thing. It just it's left like that. You just see the end result. You don't see how, like I said, you don't see how it got to that point. But yeah, why were these animals just literally just lying around in decay?
Some people seem to live in a lifestyle that I would approximate to being like a woodshed, like a workshop where you have like wood chips on the floor, and kind of like they're doing work. So therefore there's a lot of dust and dirt and things like that. But some people, they seem to sort of like think of their house as kind of like their workplace, and therefore they live in that sort of outdoor shed, like a garage, which would be aside from a house, where you live in the house is clean and you do all your dirty work over there. Some people seem to sort of bring that kind of mentality into where they live, and they just go put a bed in the corner, and
Yeah.
the rest of the house is just a workspace for a
Mhm.
shit, and it never gets cleaned. Like you don't see very clean, like woodwork places or metal work places. Like some are impeccable, of course. They like clean the floors, polished floors, and everything's clean. But some places are just like, like your dirty garage, where it's just like tires stacked in the corner, and oil on the floor, and but somebody would say, well, I'll put a bed in the corner of that and live in it, and like we'd all go like, that's crazy, like that.
What is it? Feng shui? Feng shui?
Feng shui.
Feng shui. That's it. Feng shui. I mean,
Isn't that Gord's
Face the
specialty?
wall.
Well, of course it is.
What's the craziest place you've been in, Justin?
I would say the Maryville Asylum or Institute, where some of the buildings were abandoned, and the history goes that it was a Catholic church, and part of it was for runaways and so on, troubled teens. and of
Yeah.
course you can think about the stories coming from that. But they on the internet, many 22 decades ago, you found the info of how to get in there, what may have happened, what people were talking about. We had a group of us, and we had to go through a window, which was already, kind of creepy, trying to get through a darkened window, finding our way through broken glass and stuff like that. And as we're walking through the hallway, we already had some people kind of already freaking out a little bit for nothing, of course. And I may have heard footsteps on the second floor. So I think this was at least 3 floors. And we're turning a corner, and I see footprints that are blood footprints, bloody footprints. And next thing you know, I get a phone call from some of the group that went outside. And I'm literally about to turn the corner when I'm getting this phone call. They're like, hey, we got to go. People are freaking out, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what was I about to find around the corner? And the footprints weren't necessarily brown. It was fairly fresh. I can't give you exact day or time frame of it. But I would say that would be the most given the eeriness and finding bloody footprints going down a long hallway. But I think by far, maybe the 3 of these places probably share the same number 1 spot. And I believe I talked about
And just like that.
Just like that.
He's rounded that corner and he's been axe murdered now. The axe has come down. Look, yeah.
Classic.
And well, he was a nice guy. It'd be, it's shame to, we'll all go to his funeral. Yeah.
There we go.
Oh no, he's resurrected from the
He's
dead.
resurrected.
He has returned.
Yeah, it's something. All of a sudden, my internet connection was acting up. It's like, don't tell these stories. Again, going on with the silo, and it took a time to find it. But when we did, the story goes is that there were people doing sacrifices and stuff inside of it. And the one night that we finally found it, we're about to go in. We heard mass chanting coming from a pretty upscale area on farmland in this silo cornfield, and of course that was probably one of the creepiest. And by far, I would say, as I talked about St. Pat's Cemetery, where we were the story of Bloody Mary kind of originates for us here in Illinois. I've had people literally call me and harass me for not going back there, along with personal stories of just kind of getting a little turned around and of the local people. But by far, being harassed on MySpace and eventually phone calls that are being pranked to me not to come back, I think that might take the number 1 spot. But most definitely those 3 out of my many years of doing this are probably the height of that. And it's really just dealing with people when you come down to it. Just just like the bloody footprints is a person. The chanting are people, and of course, being harassed by whoever owns this property or people who are watching St. Pat's Cemetery. It's by far a little more scary because you never know what's going to happen with that type of stuff.
Exactly. How about you, Gord?
I wouldn't say I've encountered anything fun like these guys. I mean, maybe an occasional dead animal in an abandoned place here. Most of mine has been vandalism.
Yeah.
In my area, there's been nothing really freaking out, scary. No psycho homeless people.
Yeah.
It's just mostly been vandalized damage.
Let me guess, Alex. It's your car, right?
Yeah. That's right. How did you know?
How about you? What?
Well, for me, it'd be the Whitby Psych.
Whitby Psych.
Yeah.
Okay, but outside of that, what about the Whitby Psych that just?
What do you mean outside of what?
Outside of what you shared before.
Oh, well, it was just the fact that this was its own sort of. I mean, this was built in the early 1900s when Whitby wasn't built up around it. So it would have been located in a remote area. And it was a self-contained complex. It had its own power generation plant and whatnot. So, you're far away from society in this complex that God knows what's happening in there and what kind of tests they're doing on you and what have you. So aside from the the supposed paranormal activity that occurred there, that would be in and of itself kind of pretty horrendous, I guess, for lack of a better term. You know, because who knows what they did to these people there, you know.
Well, that's the thing, yeah, with those places.
Yeah.
It's what did they do to those people? Like, what
Oh.
experimentation. Like,
Exactly.
there's so many, well-known facilities that some pretty horrendous experimentation went on. What's that one in Long Island, New York? What is it? Oh my
Oh,
God,
I know.
what's the name of that
Montauk.
place? Montauk. Yeah, like I mean, and you hear sporadic reports of strange animals washing up on the shores there, and on. But for the most part, those animals or whatever are identified later on as
Yeah, there was like bloated something.
bloated seal or whatever, and automatically somebody's going, oh no, it's been experimented on, it's a mutated this, and it's just a dead bloated animal.
Caused by the chemtrails. Get it right.
Yeah. The chemtrails. But yeah, but that doesn't say that there was horrendous things going on there. I mean, there's a lot of psychological experimentations going on there.
No doubt, especially in the early 1900s.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I mean, even the old well, it's still in operation today. Like the it's called Cam H now, but the one down on Queen Street there in Toronto.
Yeah.
Because that's a relatively old facility in and of itself, and there was stories about that place, about what they would do to the patients there.
Right? Well, I knew a guy that was working security there, and he's saying, "Look, man, whenever you want to get in, just let me know, and we can sneak you in through the there's a service tunnel that people know of that you can go in through."
Yeah,
and that thing, he says, it literally goes for miles before you get into the hospital. So
they had a few years ago, as prior to COVID, that place was actually or partook in the open doors thing that they do every year in Toronto.
Yeah.
So Lisa and I got a chance to go into the complex.
Yeah.
At CAMH and just sort of walk around and have some of the history that they were talking about the place, and patients are walking around. The whole as we're walking through.
Wait a sec. They let you go?
Yeah. Yeah. They let me out. That's the scary part. Once I went in there, I thought they were going to keep me there. But anyway, what about you, Steve? What's the creepiest place you've been to?
Your place.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
I know. just wait until you come back.
Yeah, creepier, right?
Yeah.
Oh man, mine. The creepiest place I've ever been to was probably it's a tough one. There's a lot of places that I'd probably have to say the Shanley Hotel. Just something about it was just so surreal and so I don't know. I can't really explain it. And the guy who owned it, Sal, he's no longer with us, but that place was an old hotel in the Poconos, close to New York City, about maybe about 3-hour drive from New York, in the Hudson Valley area. The mountain, it's very mountainous, but very old and very historic. A lot of I think the hotel was built in the early 1800s, I believe, and Sal had purchased it, and along with his son, they were renovating it slowly, right, with the money he had. But what he was doing was he was opening it up to people who wanted to come in and investigate, wanted to spend the night there and investigate it or whatever else. Because I mean, there was lots of claims, like a lot of places. And obviously the money that he made, he put in towards further renovating the house and or the hotel. But the top floor was unfinished, It was still in its original state, and wow, just it was an eye opener to think that how good we have it now. How good we have things now, because it was definitely a smack in the side of the head when you looked at this, and you went, wow, how do people live like this? How do people live like this? It was just very, very surreal, very I don't want to say frightening. It was just very eerie, because I think when you think of historical sort of places, the objects and the oldness of them, the wrought iron and the rusting wrought iron, uh, just everything just seemed to glisten with some sort of sadness and dread. And I just it just had that feeling when you went upstairs. It was just a totally different atmosphere, vibe, just going from one flight of stairs to that level. It was just and spending a few hours in there and just doing some work. It just yeah, crazy, crazy, very eerie. How about
Did you
you,
have like
Matt?
those bedpans?
Man, all sorts of shit. Like that floor had about I think about 4 or 5 rooms, and it had a storage room, and it was all an open hallway to the stairwell going down, and then it had a stairway to the attic, and the attic, well, there was another portion of this floor that was just, and the attic had everything there still. Sal had never taken anything out of that attic because he feared that if he took stuff out of that attic, it would raise some dust in terms of activity in the house, if you will. You're disturbing the house's energy chi, if you will, and that's the way it was. He just didn't want to disturb it. He just left it alone. But he would allow you to go up there and look at it, and again, it was just a time capsule into, at that time, yeah, there it is there,
Mm.
you
Mm.
know,
Yep.
you know, um,
Looks like the Amityville house from the front as
it,
well.
it,
You just need those little
yeah,
archway
yeah,
by, yeah,
yeah, it
and,
very, very,
It's
and
very
all
rustic.
wood as well. Like, I
yeah,
mean, those are like one match, and the whole place is going to go up like a
exactly.
candle.
And
Yeah.
he did have a small fire in one of the rooms that almost destroyed the house, but he was lucky enough to get there in time
Mm.
to put it out. But yeah, it was it left a pretty big mark in the one corner of the house. But yeah, it's insane. Very, very interesting, insane place. Most people, when I say that, say the Shanley Hotel, they're like, "Do you mean the Stanley?"
Yeah, yeah, of course,
No, no, not the
of course.
Stanley, the Shanley. And I think what adds to the essence is the surrounding area, because the surrounding area is very historical too. And not too far down the road is a old cemetery. And this thing again, I think, was pretty much in use since the I guess the mid to late 1600s. So it's been there for a long time. So a lot of the mausoleums and monuments and tombstones and that were quite old. So yeah, interesting place. Small town mentality. You go into a small town like that, people are gonna go, "What are you up to?"
Mhm.
and stare you down. Oh, they must be at the Shanley Hotel
Yeah.
looking for ghosts.
Mm-mm-mm.
What about you, Matt? Like, I mean, besides that animal house, I mean, you've been in some pretty odd places. I mean, watching your videos, I'm just like, wow, some of those places are just insane.
One that sort of stands out, which is very near the Rummer Tavern as well. It's all in that sort of area of Bristol. It's an ancient part of Bristol. They used to have tunnels running across the whole of the under part of Bristol,
Oh wow.
and they used to say that people lived down there
Yeah.
and they could walk through the tunnels and never have to come up to daylight. So people literally lived down there the whole time. So they were kind of in darkness and walking through corridors, and um, you had little rooms, which are tiny little rooms
Mhm.
that had a fireplace. It's underground, but it just looks like a little room, and like the fireplace was the main setting, and they had a big like witch's cauldron, a huge thing, like about
Oh wow.
yay big, and you're thinking like all your food's going to go in there or whatever's going to go in there, and it's like you've got a fire underneath it, and it's like a big witch's cauldron, and you're just thinking like people. You can imagine people just huddled in this tiny little room, and then, because all these tunnels were connected, I just got the feeling that people would have to kind of like tap on the door and say, I'm just going through, to get to the next tunnel. And then they
Yeah.
would walk through your living room and then out the other side to carry on, because these tunnels, just sprawled across the city, and that just it's almost like people living like rats in a way, like living in this kind of whole different environment that you just can't imagine, living under the streets, not coming up to daylight, and just, living out their life in the dark, which was weird. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, when you're saying historical there too, I mean you're talking like God, so many more years earlier than over here. I mean, you got some places that date back, thousands of years,
Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
that are still functioning today.
Yeah.
And the history and the stories that those places have are
Yeah.
just phenomenal.
I mean, Devizes, which is the nearest town to where I live,
Yeah,
is very famous for the underground tunnels that go all the way across the underneath of Devizes. And this used to be a walled town, so it was actually had a castle wall all the way around the town.
yeah,
Then the castle was demolished, the walls were taken down. Then another castle was built, and it had a prison on the outside of the town. That's gone. There's no remnants of that at all. So this place has changed a hell of a lot over time. But I mean, I spoke to a chap who ran a videotapes, the old VHS
yeah.
videotape store, and and his floor fell through
Oh wow.
into a cavern space, and he was like, what the hell's going on here, and it was like he could see it went down 2 levels and it went off. And when he told the council, like the councils, they never ever act, they're really slow. The
Yeah,
council was there immediately to kind of like deal with this, because they were perturbed by something. And I've been told that there is secret communications stuff down there. There's tunnels for telephone cables and things like this, but a lot of it's been walled off. And I got to one bit of it. I managed to go in a building that was open temporarily, got down into the basement. You could see the archways, and then they bricked it up. And that would have been heading into the center of town. Now you could just imagine all these buildings would have had interconnected tunnels,
yeah,
their basements. So it would be like a whole, roadway, of places you could go underground, door to door, gated, probably gated some of it, but a whole way you could walk underground in this. And I've not really scratched the surface with it. I've spoken to a local historian who's written a book about underground devices, and he said, this area, this area, this area, but even he has not been through, because of these walls and walls and walls that stop you going from building to building to building now. But I mean, you could probably get into most of the underground town. You could get to every building from these underground tunnels. Just makes you think what's under your feet you don't know about. That's
that's
what
the
I'm curious
thing.
about. Mm.
That's the thing. Well, it goes to something like a place that you've been to, Gord. More outside, obviously, but something like the area that surrounds the Blue Ghost Tunnel. right?
Yeah.
And the that what is it? That cemetery that's submerged. What's
Their cemetery.
yeah? What's the story behind that?
Only half of it was actually submerged. What
Okay.
happened is there's a canal that goes through the Niagara region called the Welland Canal.
Yeah.
Well, the current one that's in is actually the fourth incarnation. When they had the first and the second, there was a large cemetery on the backside of Thorold. Thorold was just growing at this time. So they needed to build a bigger and better canal to get wider ships in. However, the cemetery was in the way. So they placed an article in the newspaper saying, if you have anybody in the cemetery, you're going to need to move them from here to Lakeview Cemetery that still stands today in Thorold. So I don't have the number off the top of my head, but let's just say 1,000.
Yeah.
They only quoted moving like 100, and the rest were just left there. Now
And
it's a myth that it's all underwater. It's actually only a small portion that was
okay.
under the water. Do you remember going up the hill, looking up the hill?
Yeah.
That's actually where it was.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So there are some still bodies in the water part, because I did a whole project on the Welland Canal itself,
Yeah.
and we talked to some of the caretakers at Lakeview Cemetery.
Yeah.
Apparently, nobody got moved, and those are only stones that are in Lakeview Cemetery.
Only stones.
Yes.
Okay, so there's no actual coffins or anything like that.
No. All the bodies are still in the cemetery under the water. Now, I cannot confirm or deny that,
Oh, yeah.
because that's just hearsay from caretakers, but it makes sense. It really does.
But I mean, we have to look at it like this too. I mean, if you're being told that you have to move your loved one from a cemetery back then, a lot of these people probably didn't have the money to do that.
Exactly.
So they had no choice but to leave the site there and let it flood the way they did, I guess, which is sad. But I mean, and what kind of weirdness did you experience or anything?
We had a lot. Unfortunately, there's no physical evidence, and that part kind of bothers me. But every ghost hunter has done it during a paranormal investigation. You say, "Hey, if you're here, give me a sign." Well, there was a metal guardrail on one side of the road, and the second we said that, there was a reverberating ring off the guardrail.
Yeah.
There was another night where four of us literally watched a shadow figure dance at the top of the hill. And we all
wow.
stared at this thing for like 10 minutes till I got annoyed and I had to know if it was just someone screwing around. And I
Yeah.
lit my flashlight and there was no one there, as another member took off up the hill and there was no one for miles.
Oh wow.
Four of us literally watched a shadow dance back and
Just
forth.
sway back and forth.
Yeah.
That's weird. That's weird. That's extremely weird. I mean, I think I've only had one experience in my life that I think that shadow person. But Matt, what do you think about shadow people? Do you know much about them?
I've seen shadow figures
Yeah.
a few times. Reg Presley, who's the lead singer with the Trogs, he's no longer with us,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But his daughter, I was quite friendly with her, and we went to stay
Yeah.
around her house, and she told us about things that happened in her house. So we turned the lights off, and we were just chatting, and we saw this figure, come into the room, and it was like standing there, and I said, turn the light on, and I closed one eye, just to sort of make sure that my eye wasn't affected by the dark. And
Yeah.
then, so turn the light on, turn the light off, took my hand away from my eye, no figure there, but it was kind of like, yeah, I one night as well, I've told this story many times, a policewoman who knew that we used to do sky watches for UFOs, she used to come up and say, like, seen anything interesting stuff, and used to chat with us. And she said to me, I've got a ghost in my house. Would you like to come and spend a night in my house? I said, yeah, sure. So
Yeah.
I slept on her sofa,
Yeah.
and she said, I've got I've got a few cats, but they're not very friendly. They won't trouble you because they'll just leave the house, you know. But
Yeah.
just letting you know. And I said, okay. So I went to sleep, and when I woke up, these cats were on me, you know, and I was like, and they were padding me and clawing me and the things. And that's a bit weird because she said the cats would not bother with me at all. They would,
Yeah.
you know. And it was like, so I kind of went, oh, the cats, the cats. And then I looked over and I could see somebody in the corner of the room.
Oh
And I was
wow.
like,
They're
whoa, you know, that's kind of weird.
yeah.
And then it sort of moved across the room and
Oh
dissolved.
wow.
Yeah. And then the moment it dissolved, the cats were like out of there. And it's almost like as if either the cats were trying to come to protect me, you know, or
Yeah.
were like trying to wake me, you know, like there's something there. And she said, no, the cats never do that. Like they never ever do that. And I said, yeah, it was kind of weird. Black figure.
Oh
Yeah. Yeah. I just something before I forget, you know, just put this out in the you know out there.
yeah.
This thing about asylums. I mean, what I find is kind of weird with asylums is they used to kill people in asylums,
Yeah.
and they would bury the bodies of these people in the grounds, often without a gravestone or anything. They would just just start digging and just put the body in the ground. And the freaky thing about asylums that I had heard, which used to happen a lot, was that they would take babies that had been born to people who were in the asylums, you know, and they considered that if the person was mental, you know, and a bastard child or whatever, you know, didn't have a father, and they would say, "Oh yeah, we're taking the baby. It's going to be looked after and fostered." They would take it down to the basement. There's loads of stories about this, right?
Oh
Take it down to the
wow.
basement, dispatch the baby, either cremate it or bury the body outside with the other bodies. They would kill the babies in asylums.
Wow.
This happened a lot. Now, I mean, you know, one place I think that you're going to find tortured spirits is going to be asylums.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
could be very, very mixed up vibrations going on in those places. And from what I've seen of some of the asylums we've been in, like even the artwork that is there from current, you know, like only 20 or 30 years ago was operational, and they had things like trees grown on the walls, but the trees were like sprawling fingers and things, and they looked dark, you know, like
Oh
the
wow.
artwork. And they would obviously bring somebody into this room and sit them down and have a conversation with them and chat to them, you know, and it was it just seemed to me like as if they were trying to fuck with the heads of the people who were like in there as well. Not just, you know, try to help them, but it's like, I'm here to help you. Do you like the trees? You know, and it's kind of like trying to freak people out. You know, I was thinking this is not a very friendly, safe kind of environment. If I was in this room and I was having a mental problem and you put
Yeah.
me in this room for a chat, I'm going to be going like this. What the hell is going on here? You know, and I don't think these places were as pure and as nice as they were made out to be. I think that the psychiatric kind of industry was kind of run in a lot of cases by mad people, you know, themselves, who were literally experimenting on the people in there and dispatching them and finding ways to get rid of them, you know. And
You're talking
yeah,
about the same institutions that did frontal lobe lobotomies and
Correct.
Yeah.
electroshock therapy.
yeah,
Yeah.
So
yeah,
what
all
what
that sort of stuff. Yeah.
That's
And I
just
mean, you know, they would find ways to get rid of people, you know.
yeah. Insane. Insane.
Yeah.
And let's explore that a little bit more. We just got to take a short break on the New Visions Radio Network. When we come back, more with Matt, Gord, and Justin. You're listening to us on the New Visions Radio Network, and of course, watching us here on YouTube and Twitch. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. If we can find it.
What?
Mm.
welcome back.
Oh, shit.
You are listening and watching Nocturnal Frequency Radio here live on the New Visions Radio Network, and of course here on our YouTube and Twitch channels. Again, I want to welcome back Dr. Demon Gord and Mr. Secret Vault himself, Matt Williams, and Justin Villarreal from the Anomalous.
Oh yes, or this way, yeah.
Yeah.
Who looks like one of the Cheech and Chong's twins? maybe both.
Yeah. I'm a mix of them.
Turn your volume up a little. You're kind of low there.
Jesus.
There you go. So what about you? You said you were talking about going to an asylum soon.
Oh, yeah, I'm actually going to the Old Lake County Jail in August, which is in Crown Point, Indiana. I was there years ago when I went to Waverly, actually, but not to the jail, but to Gypsy Cemetery, a different a story out there. But they came up with a new group that I've been working with, and we're hoping to all go there. But at least me and a few others are planning to do a night to check out where John Dillinger escaped once, and so many more cool mobster stories that come from that area. But yeah, I can't wait. I don't know, Alex, if you could pull up the Old Lake County Jail in Crown Point. It looks like a small house, and that's really partially what it was used for, was like a residence. But the majority of this was a jail, and partially, I think there was a small mental institution at that. But yeah, I haven't been to a pay-to-play type of place in a while, so this should be fun. And just the experience and experiment with what they're going to tell us and whatnot is going to be pretty interesting, and I can't wait.
Pay to play.
Yeah, that's what I call them, pay to play. I was joking around with the guys in our group, and they were laughing when I said that, because I'm like, back when I started in these days, we didn't have that pay to play stuff, and now you used to be able to go there for free. Now it's a whole event thing, and they got like 5 different event groups that they're rented out with different pricing and whatnot. But still, it's fun. Let's try to get out there. We have a couple cases that we're trying to work on, but most definitely, I think this might be the highlight of the year. Just because it's been on, I think, Paranormal Encounters, Ghost Adventure, or Ghost Hunters, on one of the recent seasons, actually. I think 2016, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole area is interesting, just Crown Point overall. And that whole Gypsy Cemetery is interesting, too, which I think is probably more of my favorite, just visiting that area. And the way it got that name was, I think, late 1800s. A group of gypsies have settled there, and they were sick, or some of them were sick, and some died, and they buried their dead there. And then I think it's called South. I forget the name. It's South something cemetery. It's not Gypsy Cemetery, obviously, but they buried there, and that's kind of where the story started coming from, which was, they say it's cursed. And I didn't experience anything, but it was most definitely a beautiful cemetery overall. But yeah, that whole area of Crown Point's got some interesting stories, from the courthouse to some of the farmland, and of course the jail and Gypsy, which is connected with a lot more mobster stories throughout the Chicagoland area, surprisingly, which I find interesting too.
There's a lot of mobster shit there, man.
That's what sells around here. I ain't gonna lie.
Lots of mobster shit.
What's part of my whole case thing is, the stories and lore, and those things don't attract me. Trust me. It's not like, oh, mobsters and, ghoulies, ghosts. It's more or less, just the experience and trying to understand, what's behind everything. And what I found interesting, and which is what I find with many, stories, famous or not, is just how ambiguous these stories are when it comes down to it. And in many books, including when you're looking up anything about particularly the old jailhouse, they bring up John Dillinger, which, if people don't know, he was an old mobster who escaped multiple jails, and Johnny Depp played him in a movie called Public Enemy, which I got to be on while they were filming and such. I got to stand right next to Michael Mann while he was directing a couple scenes and whatnot.
Classic director.
Oh, yeah.
I love his flicks.
And And while he was directing, it was a hot day, but man, that man had a scowl on his face. I did, did not want to make a man. But what I found interesting was is that they don't have anything concrete about the John Dillinger story, and there's different variations of that story, which I find weird, given that the well, I shouldn't say given, but the jailhouse itself is only really found as a historical place because of that John Dillinger experience where that he escaped there. But they have many conflicting stories on what exactly happened and how he escaped and so on. But yes, if you read many books or find any stuff on the internet, there's very different takes on what exactly happened there, and that goes to show, with a lot of places, you can't totally take what's being said about it as truth. So I'm interested to find out what they're going to tell us and what we might experience. We'll see. They've heard footsteps and gunshots apparently, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Gunshots.
Yes.
It's like
Tommy guns.
it's like when I visit Gettysburg.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about a crazy place?
I hear about this all the time, to be honest with you.
You want to talk about a crazy place? Like we stayed in the old look at where Lincoln was assassinated.
Yeah.
We stayed in the hotel right attached to that, and there's crap loads of stories about that place. But I had a nice room there. Nothing ever happened. A great stay, but I'll tell you, when you go out into the field, into the killing fields, into the battlefields, the Devil's Den and all that, it's just so fucking surreal, man.
Mm-hmm.
You walk across that field and there's still there's still casings, there's still there's still bones.
Yeah.
That they will not they won't touch them. They'll leave them alone, and you're not allowed to take anything from the field. They'll arrest you.
Well, yeah, because it's the biggest battle that America had. The funny thing is that people don't know, the South was going to win. It wasn't up until Gettysburg that it turned over. We were really losing the whole Civil War. Well, I shouldn't say we. I'm in the North, so I guess. And I didn't fight, but yeah, we were losing up until that point. So if that didn't happen, we would be all Confederates right now.
But I mean, the buildings, like much of the buildings are still in the downtown area, and when I say downtown, it's not huge. It's just it's still that historic. They still have that square, the Lincoln Square, and then you have the main road that goes out of Gettysburg, and you have all the main buildings that were there. They've been there for over 150 years now. And you still see the bullet holes in the brick.
Yeah,
like the bullet. They've never fixed them. They left them the way they as is because they wanted to give people a sense of what it was like authentically. To give you a sense of what it was like, and but it was eerie. Just walking in the field at night. I mean, you weren't allowed to, but we did anyways. We went out into the field, and I took a recorder because I said, nah, you never know, right? And you see all sorts of videos popping up about people capturing, the ghosts of soldiers, and all. You see all sorts of that shit. I don't know the validity of them or anything. I mean, they look pretty. I don't know. I mean, they look good, but I'm sure there's an explanation. But still,
have you seen the soldiers walking in the trees?
Yeah.
Actually, that one by far is probably more convincing than anything I've ever seen there.
That's just that's insane. And now, if anyone can find that, walking in the field at night. I mean, you weren't allowed. Oh, that's me. I thought somebody picked up the video, and I'm like, oh, okay, we'll play.
The stream is haunted.
Yeah, the stream is haunted. All right. But hold on. Let's see if we can find it. I mean, talking about have you ever seen it, Matt?
I don't know if I have seen a photo of soldiers in the trees at Gettysburg. It's not a story that I think is kind of unless maybe you read a lot of that sort of stuff. I haven't heard it make its way across the pond to kind of be a well-known ghost story. But yeah,
There's a few of them. I mean, there's this one here. This one's kind of, I don't know.
What do you hear about American ghost stories when it comes to that? Because everything, almost movies are practically made on old England ghost stories. You don't really hear much of that about us when you think about it.
I think the classics are like, but it's not the true story. Is like Poltergeist, the Amityville Horror,
Oh, okay.
things like that. Movie stories and The Conjuring. Well, again, these are like iconic stories. I'm just trying to think of like hauntings, specific hauntings.
Which is interesting because
You
those are
know,
all by the Lorraine
me,
Warrens. Those are all connected Warren stories.
mm, unless you watch a lot of these like TV programs and read the books, nothing stands out. You know, from the small stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's all the big stuff.
yeah.
Okay,
Mm.
this one here, this one's easily explained, but it's still kind of. I had people going, "Oh my God, look at that!" When you analyze it, you can tell what it is. But I mean, here, let's see. Where are we?
I would say as well. I'm. If you ask me about UFOs, I could probably tell you more.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to be honest with you.
Mm.
Darn it.
Oh.
So right here, see that?
Mm.
Seriously.
Let me just replay it again. Hold on a sec.
I didn't see any. Oh,
That's interesting.
Now,
wow,
okay, so
that's weird. But it like moves at a speed as well, a strange speed, doesn't it? It's like
yeah,
sort of grows out of nothing and sort of like, whoop, that's interesting.
Even right there in the background, there's some more things going on.
Oh, do you know? Oh, I've got an explanation for you.
I
Okay,
it's very
you're about to say this.
it's a
I can
crystal clear
I can
explanation.
tell you what I think that might be straight away.
Go for it, Matt. You go ahead.
I think it's dirt on the windshield, and I think
Uh,
they're moving the camera.
you're close, but
Mm,
it was actually raining, and
right.
there was moisture on the windshield,
That was
Mm,
and the moisture it was actually the raindrops were moving, and as the car was going by, it
that
was
was
going. The
reflect.
light was reflecting off the beads and doing that.
mm,
So when you slow it down, you can actually see.
It was that second or the third
mm.
time you guys played it that I caught that.
Yeah. So, but
It's funny, isn't it? I picked it up on try two.
Yeah, it was about.
yeah,
Didn't
Yeah,
even see it the first time, but once I was like looking, oh right, okay, what's that? So,
to
yeah,
follow from the back end and then kind of went over
yeah.
the wheel. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Please
Like it
don't
almost
call
bubbled
me a
out over the
skeptic.
wheel.
I am not a skeptic,
yeah.
but I'm just hard to please. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you gotta have that in this whole field when it comes down. Just have a little bit of that skepticism involved. Even though
Well, you need to have
Yeah.
that.
I've seen some
Yeah.
strange stuff, and most definitely,
Mm.
I don't believe every story and everything I've experienced to be fully, paranormal based.
This
But you
one
know what I
here.
thought I saw? I saw like a figure sort of pop up
In the
and
back,
then sort of pop up and then sort of like like rip it across and then change shape and as he was going and I was like, but what is that? And then something just clicked. It's like you're not. It's not what you're seeing. It's something on the windshield
yep.
that's kind of moving in parallax with the camera.
Yeah.
Mm,
People don't even
mm.
know even mist pictures and video can be just from moisture in the air to any light refraction, and I often see that happen a lot.
Yeah, yeah, and most of the time people won't. Will just take it as is and say, "Oh my God, look at that! That's actually a ghost."
Of course. I mean, I've had a situation where I was investigating Burlington, Wisconsin. Well, not the whole city, but a particular area that was being run, a tour that was being run by the Sci Fi Cafe, which had become pretty popular around this area. and I took a picture on one of the tours, which is you could do for free. I'm not going to give away, but you're literally walking in a park practically. And I took a picture in a branch because I was trying to follow the electrical lines with my EMF reader to kind of see what was popping up and where. And just the angle and the way the light of the flash caught this branch, it made it look like a weird creature. Okay. Uh, Show our video as we get back to the Sci-Fi Cafe. The owner, which I forget her name, she's like, "What is this?" And I was like, "This looks like just a weird branch thing." We go back the next time, and I don't think she totally remembered that I took that picture, but she showed that picture, and I should have said something. I'm sorry, I got crazy. I should have said something when I saw it, but again, that ruins the experiment in a sense. And she was saying it was a space slug, and I seen that picture again on the internet, and I was like, interesting.
Space slug.
Space slug.
Space
A little bit
slug.
of backstory: she comes from Arizona.
Okay.
Well, I think she came there from
Sedona.
Sedona.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I think that correlates with a little bit of.
Explains everything.
I thank you, man. Thank you. But yeah, you can't, you want to take so many things like this with a grain of salt, and that most definitely, that experience alone really heightens up. What are we looking at? What are we dealing with? And of course, someone's word when it comes to these types of things. But yeah, it was kind of funny to see that on the internet, and then on the second tour where she totally forgot I took the picture, and space slug.
That's another. Mitch has posted some really intriguing stuff about children being buried and unmarked graves and stuff like that. And wow, I mean that's quite. Let's face it, that's another thing. Well, hey, here in Canada, that's it's becoming a huge thing. Literally hundreds of unmarked graves being found of indigenous children that were.
Can't remember his name, but he come over from the States. I think he was from Canada, but he was a pastor, and he was trying to publicize the fact that there had been these mass murders of indigenous children.
Yeah.
And and it was very, very dark, and he had pressure from the government to stop talking about it because it was just like, we don't want you to talk about this. And and I think I even had trouble with YouTube, tried to take down the video, which we had up there as well. So yeah.
And it just takes somebody excavating something and bam, and finding this. And it happened to be at two of them were close to Catholic churches. And of course the Catholic
Shocker.
Church. That's what I mean. That's what I mean, right? There's all sorts of speculation, conspiracies as to that whole scenario. But the fact is, I mean, when you're finding, unmarked graves of literally hundreds of children, on the grounds of a Catholic church, I mean, what more do you want?
Yeah.
Who are you going to blame? Obviously, okay, what's going on here? What the fuck is going on here? We want to get to the bottom of this. And people, like you said, Matt, people already knew. They already know about this stuff. And it's been for years hushed. And certain people will talk about it, but it's really sad. But there's literally thousands, hundreds of thousands of children who meet their fate and unfortunately are buried in unmarked graves. I mean, I look at even an old pioneer cemetery that we were working with the city with and trying to document. A lot of the children in this particular small family grave, there's probably about 40, 50 people buried there, but they're not all marked. They're not all marked.
Yeah.
Only some of them are marked. And that makes you wonder, okay, just how accurate is a lot of this documentation of these people being buried.
Of course.
You know,
And it was
And I
easy.
mean, people think this is freaky. I mean, take it sideways. I mean, I know we're not talking ghosts here and things, but there are even places in America and the UK that will abort children at like like near term abortions. The baby's basically alive, you know. They go, yeah, we don't want this, so we're just going to kind of end the life. Now, I mean, come on, you know, people in 50 years' time are going to be looking back at like we are barbarians, like we look back 100 years and say like, oh, they were killing hundreds of children. This is terrible, and they're going to look in 50 years' time and go, what? You were aborting children at like that 8 term? Really?
Yeah. No, I it's a little weird. Yeah.
Some things haven't changed that much.
Correct.
no, they're just what is it?
Legitimizing it.
Legitimizing it. Yeah, exactly. They're making
Yeah.
it legit. It's like, oh no, there's nothing wrong with it. What?
No.
Yeah. So sad to say, you know, I'm not trying to pluck on anyone's heartstrings. I'm just saying that we live in a weird world.
Correct. Yeah. And I'm all about, you know, choices for people, but I'm not going to deny that there's a weird line we're crossing, you know, most definitely. Yeah. And for the most vain reasons, some of it's not what, you know, without getting into a discussion, it's not just, it's vain, really, when you think about it.
What do you think, Gord? What do you think is the connection between, you know, what we experience as if you will ghosts or spirits or whatever to actually linking them to dead loved ones?
I don't think you can honestly just make that connection. You know, we can't even explain truly what a ghost is. We don't really understand what a ghost is. Therefore, assigning it to a dead loved one is just the subconscious mind's way of bringing comfort to a situation you don't understand.
Yeah.
You know, like until the day comes that we can identify what criteria falls under ghost, then we can't say it's like a deceased parent or a loved one or perhaps even an animal for that matter. You know, I don't think there's a way to differentiate between the two, honestly.
Do you think that possibly and Matt, I kind of make this connection a few times, and the fact that, you know, how we're, you know, with UFOs and aliens and all that sort of thing, you know, extraterrestrial life out there, the possibility that what we're experiencing on a psychological level in terms of, say, ghosts and spirits and all that, could they somehow be linked to extraterrestrial life?
I think that you know, there's some parallels. I mean, you know, ghosts walk through walls, aliens abduct you through walls.
Yeah.
You know, strange things like that. The ability to move through, you know, physical objects. Yeah, I mean, various connections. I'm just trying to think now. Yeah, you know, the thing about the babies, you know, the abduction of fetuses out of women, you know. So it's kind of like people say that they were pregnant and then suddenly they're no longer pregnant. And of course, medical science would say, well, that lady probably had the baby and, you know, just did away with it, you know, because it came out stillborn or something was wrong. You know, the person was a bit maladjusted to kind of like handle it. And they just kind of like just sweep it under the carpet. So it's like, you know, it's not a solved case. It's like woman is pregnant, woman is no longer pregnant, baby's there, but we can't explain it. Sweep it under the carpet. It's just one of those things. Just one of those things, you know. Baby's gone. but it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
It's a bit like, maybe all these babies that got killed at the hands of the nuns and the church and the asylums, and
Jesus
it's
a lot.
just one of those things.
Well,
Mm.
kind of furthering it, and I mean, it seems it was taboo for the longest time in the UFO community, and we're talking about cattle mutilation, but even human mutilation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was just no, you don't want to get into that, and sort of equate it to extraterrestrial life kind of thing. I mean, what the possibility of extraterrestrial life sort of carrying out experimentation on humans just like they are with cattle and stuff like that. I mean, to understand our sort of genetic makeup or whatever, do you to be honest, I don't see that being the case, because I think if these cultures are as advanced as they are, I don't think they would need to get down to that sort of barbarianism, if you will.
Well, maybe if it's part of a social experiment to
Yeah.
change the genetics, a bit like Arthur C. Clarke said in the 2000, 2001. There is a weird kind of crossover from Homo sapiens to Cro-Magnon man.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, it could be as simple as Homo sapiens killed out or
Yeah.
outbred these earlier species, but there's a bit of a mystery there as to kind of where things went and who and where are the bodies and where's the kind of lineage. Now, some people like to think in that void of information that there might be some sort of alien influence, and if there was, then I could easily imagine
Yeah.
abductions and impregnations and things like that. That would make perfect sense. But is it true? I don't know. But
Yeah.
it's tantalizing to think about. I mean, some people think it's the realms of science fiction. I think, well, you've if you've got an extremely advanced society that are looking at seeding various planets with different types of life, it's like a petri dish.
Correct.
Each planet is a petri dish, and you try to work out which ones are successful and which ones are not, and if you can guide and not. And I think that their outlook on this would literally not take into consideration our thoughts or feelings on the matter at all, because they're going to be so way ahead of what we think we know,
Mm-hmm.
that it isn't going to, our thoughts and feelings are not going to be a consideration in this matter. So, yeah.
Cool image to check out is hometown ghost. I haven't. Matt, have you seen that?
The Wem Town Hall, UK, ghost of a girl appearing inside a fire when it burnt down in the 90s. So it gives me chills. No, I haven't seen that.
I've seen it before.
Sorry,
I
I'm
don't buy it.
eating peanuts, by the way, and there's
Oh.
a doggy here that wants me to eat more peanuts, so I have to because she wants some.
How's Angel doing?
She's fine. She's really good.
Doing good.
That's good. She's like, give me more peanuts.
I think Gord said that he saw that picture.
Oh, a
Yeah,
picture. Oh, yeah.
I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. It's
Why is
just
that?
it looks so. The ghost looks so clear.
So clear.
Yeah.
Oh, we have to find the image.
Yeah, it is a lot of things well, I shouldn't even say even pre any date, but the majority of photos taken were pretty much fake from what I understand. Anything from before the 1950s is most likely faked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most of the ghost stories that we talk about prior to that, like the Grimes sisters, which of course not everyone's going to know. This is more of an American story, or was it also the Fox sisters as well? These were all fake. These were all fake. Just to try to get publicity at one point. Even one of people I look up to, not saying it's fake, but I still question it. Was pictures of the Madonna taken at Bachelor's Grove here in Chicago by Dale Kaczmarek. Not saying, Dale, they're fake. I just still question those types of things because we haven't seen anything like those ever since that. Even some of the photos that we do see, we don't got evidence in modern times of such things like that, as clear as a pictures as we see. You know, and it does make me question that. Just like orbs and mists, how they used to be popular in the 80s and 90s. We don't get that much anymore. And there's got to be some real explanation behind that.
I'm trying to find a
Maybe the camera manufacturers found a way to stop them appearing.
It's totally possible. It is totally possible. But most definitely, besides that, there have been some weird enough experiences for us to question, and I think there are some logical explanations to those weird things that we do experience. Even the reason why we don't have a lot of physical evidence, because I feel the majority of paranormal experience are psychic in nature and not happening, here.
Physically, yeah.
Take for instance, as you brought up, the walking through walls. That could still happen, let's say, but in the realm of the mind, it makes more sense when it's not happening physically. And we have more evidence of psychic abilities scientifically than we do actually of ghosts per se.
I reckon in the next 20 years, we're going to hear more than ever about quantum realities, how our body in physical state connects with the quantum realm, which can cross universes in instantly to communicate telepathically and in other ways. And I think we're going to learn so much more about this that it's going to make people's minds boggle. So I would say just keep watching that space.
Of course. No, I totally agree, Matt.
So is this the photo here?
Wow.
Yes. Apparently.
I can see the UFO. Yeah.
In my opinion, she is far too well defined. This just screams Photoshop to me.
And it's in black and white, which just that alone takes away a lot of details in itself. When was this taken?
Hold
on, I had it up.
But artistically, I ain't gonna lie. Even if this is real, it's a pretty good shot, no doubt.
It's a good shot, yeah. I mean, rather if it's real or not, it's interesting.
Okay, the article I'm looking at says
1995.
Oh wow!
November 19th, 1995. No special effects. It was taken with a 200 millimeter lens from across the road. You zoomed in that far and it's that clear? Pass. So apparently he was across the street and zoomed in and caught that pic.
But that's an optical zoom, not a digital zoom, which is different.
Yeah.
I'm taking it that this was not during a fire, was it? It was after
fire, wasn't it? From what I'm understanding, it's after fire.
Hold on, I still got it up here.
In a blazing
burning.
100 years prior to this being captured. Right, okay. If that's what they're talking about.
Okay, so the photo was taken in 1995, but this girl was supposedly a girl, ghost from a girl from 100 years prior, something like that, right?
It would make sense.
The firefighters debunked it. They said it was either plastic guttering or wood burning that made it look like someone standing there.
Oh,
well, that's all right then. That UFO hovering above the White House was just some styrofoam that got melted by some acid. That's great, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's an interesting photo. There's no doubt about it.
It's a cool album cover.
Yeah. Cool album. Well, okay, so you're going into a place, getting into something a little bit more different, Matt. When you're going into you're going to go into a location, abandoned location, that supposedly has a whole bunch of stories behind it, whatever. Either just to urbex it or to investigate it. What would you take, equipment wise? What would you take into a place at night for, say, to document it visually?
Well, I mean, I don't do an awful lot of it because I do stay away from it from my channel because I
Yeah,
don't want to cross contaminate too much into the ghost stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Even though I'm a big believer, I
Hmm.
yeah,
do believe in life after death. I
mhm,
do believe in medium spirit,
yeah,
communication. I've seen ghosts, I've seen UFOs. I'm a big believer, but I don't want to sort of cross contaminate.
yeah.
I mean, I got to be perfectly honest, is because I think YouTube doesn't favor these things,
Yeah, yeah.
in many respects. So I kind of didn't want to go down that road,
Mhm,
and also I've had 20 years of like handling the crop circles, and all the stuff that's behind that, and
yeah.
people can't get their heads around that, when you try to tell them what went on. So, but what would I take? What generally, EMF meter. I take an electromagnetic field meter to see whether there's any strong fields, which could be electrical in nature. I would take a obviously cameras,
Mhm.
audio recorders, infrared cameras. That's what I have access to. I mean, I've got thermal imaging equipment as well. I've always hoped that I would see like a ghostly figure in thermal image coming across the screen, but I haven't done yet. Um, but yeah, I mean, a tool I take is people who are psychically aware as well, people who are more attuned. That's one of my tools.
Mhm.
It's kind of like I take a person who's more attuned to that sort of thing than I am. And I think, that is a tool, you know? So I take
Okay,
somebody.
so what
Yeah.
about if you're just going into urbex it? Not so
Mm.
much the paranormal aspect, but just to urbex it, to document it visually.
Mhm. Well, just cameras, just a camera.
Yeah. What
That's
kind of
all.
camera? Like what kind of cameras?
DJI Pocket 2, I use a lot because it's
Yeah.
very lightweight, and I can even put it in my mouth and climb and do things like that. If the place is exceptional and I really do need to capture extra quality and extreme low light, I'll take the A7S, but it's heavy.
Yeah.
So you're getting into different territory there with how long you want to hold it, and you're constantly changing arms to use it. But it does see incredibly low light. It's very good.
Yeah.
I'd love to catch something on that was anomalous. But yeah, I mean, I'm along for the ride. I'm not there to capture things. If something happens, it's great.
Hmm.
But I'm just kind of like going in very clinical and cold. Looking just at the building and doing things, and the ghost people who are there, I'm kind of just letting them get on with their thing. And if something happens, I'm kind of like, ooh, then I tune in. I kind of get a bit more interested then.
Do you find that a lot though, with a lot of the people you sort of converse with when you're urbexing? They kind of don't. I don't want to necessarily say shun the paranormal aspect of things, but
Mhm.
they kind of put that aside. They don't even really think about it. They just go in, they want to explore the location, and that's it. Sort of give you a feel what it's like to be in this place, and that's all. And
Yeah.
if something does something weird happens, they kind of, I'm not going to say discount it, but they don't really pay too much attention to it.
I would say overall, because we're not looking for it in general, most of the times we go to locations, and I would have to scour my mind to think when something shocked me. We're not looking for it, and we don't tend to see it.
Yeah.
However, when I sit down with somebody and do a focusing session on the paranormal, then sometimes things happen. but it's mostly when you sit down in that frame of mind.
Yeah.
That's just an observation I have. It's kind of maybe you have to be in that frame of mind. You have to kind of be open to it and aware. You've tuned yourself in, and then things start to happen. In general, when I go to locations, although I'd love to see something happen and have a weird experience when doing an urbex, I'm kind of focused on the filming because a lot of it is kind of like, where's the camera pointing? Is it up, down, left, right? What am I, and you kind of, my mind is focused on that. But then when I stop and I focus on the paranormal, it's almost like that's when things start to happen. It's almost
yeah.
like to kind of sit down and make yourself that space for that, and then things start to happen.
Well,
It's a shift. It's like a gear shift. Like,
yeah.
like I'm cameraman, nothing happens, But if I shift gear into paranormal mode, crazy stuff has happened. But it's kind of like, it's definitely when I'm there looking for that and in that mindset and in that mind frame.
By the way, Matt, I think I finally found the original tape for that the girl singing.
Good stuff.
So it's just a matter of getting ripping the actual audio and sending it your way as is.
Yeah.
So I just gotta figure out how I can do it, because I don't have the same equipment I used to have. So I gotta try to figure out how to do that. But Justin, what about you? I mean, you go. What do you like to take into to a location and document it visually? And
practically everything I can. Obviously the EMF. People have been following me. They know I have a backpack that I made a camera rig on, so I have that with me all times. A lot of times I have a digital recorder in my pocket with the mic sticking out, so it's catching audio as well as another digital recorder or a tape recorder at times. I still use a VHS camera if I can. Just to see if there's any difference in that. With an old Magnavox movie maker.
Holy crap!
I have one still, and I have tons of footage
Holy
of
shit!
using it. And I just recently got a Geiger counter, which is what I've been itching to get out. I've been so busy, to be honest with you.
Well, didn't you build it?
Yes.
Yes.
I got parts online and made a little cardboard case for it, which was pretty cool. I sweeted it, as they say. And of course, when I'm going to places, I want to ask Matt this: do you protect yourself physically when you're going to places like this?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I visualize a white sort of field around me, and I kind of say, you cannot get through this. I am protected, and you cannot get through this. And I feel that protection and know that protection. It's not like kind of going, I hope I'm protected.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you have a knowing of protection. So then once I put that in place, I relax, because it's like, yeah.
Any weapons?
You ain't getting through that. No, never any weapons or anything like that.
I bring my knife
from my sharp tongue.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That could stab someone. I will doubt.
You bring okay. So Justin, you bring your knife.
Yes, all the time.
Just in case of what?
In case I run into shady people, just like
well, we have to think too. You've got some shady areas close to you, so
of course, and just from my experience, even in let's say the most upscale area as Bartlett, Illinois, where I heard the chanting in a silo, I don't know what these people are going to do to me. It could be straight up eyes wide shut type of stuff, and next thing you know, I'm on the train track somewhere. They find my body on train tracks. You never know about these things, no matter what. Even if magic or anything does occultism, people believe that do.
So you don't want to be the latest victim. Latest victim.
That's not a knife. This is a knife.
Where's my fork at? No, it's actually a karambit. It's not a knife. It's a karambit.
We would be a butter spread.
Butter, yeah, spread your butter.
It's actually illegal to carry a knife like that in the UK. You'd be arrested for it. You just couldn't be out and about with that. You'd have to have a very legitimate reason, and they
Oh,
would have to
Jesus.
believe you. You know, because it would be as classed as high as having a gun.
Which I mean
So
makes sense. It does. I mean, the reason why
mm,
I do it, I protect is for protection.
yeah.
Would I carry a gun if I could? Maybe, but I don't. I've never. I mean, I've been robbed and stuff, so I've never had to feel that a need to get a gun or do anything like that. But most definitely, uh, I bring a knife. I've never brought mace or anything. But if people are, I do suggest carry mace on you. You never know. But most definitely, when it comes to that, it's that along with the usual paranormal kit. And
You don't have a taser?
no, I don't have a taser, which is probably better than a knife because you don't want to get blood on you.
We'll have to get into some high powered stuff like some electric magnetic frequency
Yeah.
weapon.
But I got to say, like, things are a lot safer in the United Kingdom when we go out and do this stuff. You don't expect people to have knives and guns.
Yeah.
But hey, if I was in your country, I probably would be fully
Yeah.
armed.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
Just like if I was going to Africa, I'd probably have a rifle.
I've seen those
So
machete videos
yeah.
in the UK. All right, I don't know how widespread that was. I do. I started alone. That's how I started into ghost hunting. I used to go, which I ain't gonna lie, was probably more urban exploration in the beginning, and then
Mhm.
Mm,
turned into, uh, uh, well,
But that's the way a lot of it does.
yeah,
Though. A lot of people the urbex,
yeah.
and then all of a sudden well, let's sort of bring more aspects into it. Oh, there's
Well, a lot of
weird
those
shit's
places
happening.
have their own history when it comes down to it. It'd be a mental asylum to an old farmhouse, which you know, where I grew up in Lake County. I mean, there's tons of that. So you have seen places where it looks like they just got up and left. I've been in mansions, FYI, that literally look like. Why did they leave? Why is there still, just like Matt mentioned, pictures of a family and so on? They left, for whatever reason. But yes, I've seen enough that you never know what you're going to run into when it comes down to that, or what's going on in those places. But yeah, it started off either just checking out some old place that turns out, oh, the why part comes into place, and then you find out a little bit of history, and it starts opening up other doors. Or in some cases, here you're running along the Des Plaines River, which has quite a history of itself, and a lot of haunted things going along with that.
mm.
Well, it's.
Of course,
I remember the Tremaine House guys, Alex and Gord know the Tremaine House. The very first time I was in there, I remember going in there and scouting it out. And this was during the day, in the afternoon, and I remember going upstairs to the bedroom level of the house, and I just heard this huge scuffling noise coming from the attic right
hmm
above me. I'm like, okay, okay, maybe it's just a raccoon, but it's awfully heavy.
yeah,
The dragging, like it was moving every time I'd walk, because when you walk on the floor, you hear the creaks and the
hmm
cracks. It's such an old hardwood floor that everything creaks and
yeah,
cracks, right? You hear it like it's loud. And I'd walk. I was walking around and snapping some pictures and all that kind of stuff. And this thing just seemingly, it was just right above me. It just moved all the time. Every time I moved, it would move. And then, I'm like, okay, so where is the attic door? So I'm looking for the attic door. And I finally went to the room and the one room, and I noticed the attic door, and there, it was closed. The board was closed. So I'm like, and whatever was there was right above it. I'm like, okay, I'm waiting for this thing to open the fucking door, you know, but it never did. But it just makes you wonder, okay, was it somebody homeless,
yeah,
living up in the attic? You just don't know.
yeah, yeah. And you don't know the mentality or the
Yeah.
reason why they're there. So
It's
I mean, you
just
got to take precautions. I mean, it really does come down to it.
yeah.
I'm glad Matt never had to run into anything, but yes, I mean, I've ran into enough places where, yeah, you might want to protect yourself.
Have
Yeah,
you
but then if there's enough of us, like I may be off
Yeah.
in one part of the building on my own, and these places could be big enough that you're on your own.
Right.
But it's kind of like I got this kind of overriding feeling that if it's a person, it's just going to be some homeless person, and I'll just say, "Hey, how you doing? I'm just filming. What are you doing?" They'd be like, "I am just jacking up with heroin," and I'd be like, "Oh, cool, heroin's cool. Hey, man, and then we're all going to be big buddies, and we'll carry on our separate ways. But yeah." But I haven't experienced it.
And I was just
Except,
going to ask you if you've experienced something crazy like that.
I've experienced it, but not in urbex.
Yeah.
Hanging around like free parties and things. I've seen some weird shit going on in buildings, and come across people in states. But uh, I tell you what, we always seem to find is we always find the bedclothes and the sleeping bag and a
Mm.
mattress and heroin needles and things like that, but never the person. There's never a person there. But there was a video recently. I don't know if that them. There's a group called Finders Beepers History Seekers.
No.
Weird name, but Finders Beepers is because they do metal detect. They used to do metal detecting. So beep 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 beep. So it's Finders Beepers History Keepers or History Seekers.
I like
And
that.
they've gone into doing urbex, but what they've done is they've taken their dog along. So somebody said, "Oh, why don't you put a camera on your dog?"
Mhm.
Which they did. And then the dog runs around the building on its own, the little terrier. Anyway, this dog was running around the building and looking around, and then sort of like looks and then runs away. And you look, and there's somebody hidden underneath the bed. There's a face. There's somebody actually hidden underneath the bed,
Oh.
which is really weird. So yeah.
Darren's asking, what's been happening in the US of A with NASA going on about an identified object? I've been hearing stuff, but I haven't really been following it. I know they had some sort of conference on something. I haven't really been paying attention though. I don't know much about that, so I can't help you there. I don't know about you guys. Have you guys heard anything about that?
No, I don't think so. Actually,
Aliens are already here, Shane. Shane says aliens are coming. I think they're already here.
Apparently, I have had experiences like this, which my memory is not good enough to kind of recall, but I have apparently. My viewers know more about my life than I do. Trust me. Yeah.
That's I know UAPs now they're calling them UAPs.
yeah, they changed it now.
They got to be. It's another area where they got to be politically correct, right?
It's almost like OAPs, like old age pensioners. So you've got these like ultra age pensioners flying through the sky. Yeah. Maybe millions of years old. Maybe it's true. Is there ultra age pensioners? Because that was the secret all along.
Oh man. Well, I think that's a wrap. Guys, Justin, get your info out there.
Find me at the Anonymous Real Network .podbean.com, and of course, just search my name and you'll find all my links and everything else.
You should ask Matt if you can play some of his stuff on your channel.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That's yours.
First time that we've actually been on this long and actually talked a little bit.
And Matt, let everyone know I've got the links there in chat or in the discussion. But for those who may not know where to find you, Matt.
Oh God, yeah. I'm not as big as some of the guys I went out with the other night. I was out with two paranormal people who were doing videos.
Okay.
4 million subscribers and 4 million subscribers.
Holy crap.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, it's not real paranormal. They kind of if they found something really real, I think they'd be very excited. But it was like it's like kids-based paranormal. So like what they do is they go down there and then they have like a whoa, and then they were animating in characters running down corridors and things like this, and sort of stuff. Hey, it was good fun. Nice guys. Alfonso's World was one of them, I think it was, and Mio Sarjo or something.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how little I know about these people.
So
just like, hi guys.
The first time out with these guys?
Yeah. I took them to a underground cannabis grow room quarry place, and their minds were blown. They were like, "Yeah, this is good. We don't get this very often.
We gotta get this bad guy again."
yeah. But that was good fun. But why did I tell you that? There was a reason. Anyway, yeah.
You were talking about how
little old me down here, like in Nowhereville. But then, yeah, there are some people out there that seem to be doing quite well for themselves by, just hamming it up a bit, shall we say? Yeah, I'm obviously missing a trick. That's what it is. But yeah, if you want to check us out, The Secret Vault, it's all one word. So yeah, it's not in the Oxford English Dictionary yet, but yeah, one day it will be.
And it's Matt's got some really cool shit there, so do check it out. Definitely check it out. You like
Cheers.
I said. Yeah, until next Sunday night, guys. Take care, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And
hasn't Alex got something to promote? Come on.
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on.
He's got his garage
show here.
Matt. He's got his garage.
Yeah.
He's got a
Demon board.
I don't want to give any secrets away.
Surely we have to go over to your site. Come on.
I got nothing.
Favoritism between me and Justin. Come on.
I'm just here for comic relief.
Yeah.
Comic relief. and then we've got Alex's Burrito Palace.
That's right.
Wow, a burrito, dude.
These burritos
I could go for a burrito right now, to be honest.
Actually, that's a very good idea.
All right, guys.
Nobody wants to promote themselves, so there we are. We gave them a chance. Just like, yeah.
This is Alex's promotion.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Take care.
Night, everybody.
Have a good
Cheers.
Good night,
All the best. Bye-bye.